The story of Christmas couldn't be told without angels, those mysterious celestial creatures often depicted with wings and halos, those guardian spirits who act as intermediaries between heaven and earth. In the Bible, 9 different angels are mentioned, with names like Raphael, who provides God's healing, Michael, who performs acts of justice, and perhaps, most important of all, Gabriel, who delivers God's messages. Those messages were foretold by prophets centuries ago and came to pass on one amazing night.
God's most important message was delivered by the angel Gabriel to a young girl named Mary, who was betrothed to a man named Joseph. Gabriel said to Mary, "Rejoice, for you have found God's favor, and you have been chosen to bear God's son. The Lord is with you."
Yes, an angel broke that incredible news to Mary. An angel gave Jesus his very name. And an angel told Joseph to take Mary as his wife. Then, on that night of nights, an angel brought the news to the shepherds, saying, "Do not be afraid. I bring you news of great joy. Today, in the city of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is Christ the Lord."
When the angels had left them, the shepherds said to one another, "Let's go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about." So they hurried off and found Mary and Joseph and the baby, who was lying in a manger.
God sent angels to spread the news of Christ's birth, and God promises to continue sending angels to care for his children, just the way they watched over the child on that first Christmas. The psalmist writes, "Because you have made the Lord your dwelling place, he shall give his angels charge over you, to keep you in all your ways."
how thrilling it must have been to hear the sound of an angel's voice. Isaiah tells us that their voices made doors and thresholds tremble. Luke tells us that their voices were glorious and filled the heavens on that first Christmas night. A scene permanently impressed upon our hearts by the hymn writer's words. Sing, choirs of angels, sing in exaltation. Oh, come, let us adore Him, Christ the Lord.
Angels came on that first Christmas to spread the news of God's love and grace. As we remember and celebrate, let us carry the messages of the angels in our hearts throughout the year. The writer in the book of Hebrews implores us to not neglect to show hospitality to others. By doing this, some have entertained angels unawares. Hark, the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King.
Choir and congregation, what would we do without Forrest? Thank you, Forrest. It's like Forrest, always trying to pass the praise on to God and to his co-musicians. So we do want to thank God. How long have you been choir director here?
10 years.
10 years. And before you, this young man who during the weekday was a doctor and the evening and the weekends was choir director at Union Church. John Lawton is going to go back to Australia this afternoon, but it's so good to have you. It's got to be fun to see the tradition continues. And thank you for being part of both the old and the new. And orchestra, fantastic. Choir, thank you for taking some old ideas and giving a whole fresh perspective to them. And as our thank you to you, I'd like to read something from Howard Thurman. He was an African-American pastor from San Francisco, a mentor of Martin Luther King Jr. It's called The Singing of Angels. There must be always remaining in every person's life some place for the singing of angels. some place for that which in itself is breathlessly beautiful, and by an inherent prerogative, throwing all the rest of life into a new and creative relatedness. Something that gathers up in itself all the freshness of experience from drab and commonplace areas of living and glows in one bright light of penetrating beauty and meaning, then passes. The commonplace is shot through with new glory. Old burdens become lighter. Deep and ancient wounds lose much of their old hurting. A crown is placed over our heads that for the rest of our lives we are trying to grow tall enough to wear. Despite all the crassness of life, despite all the hardness of life, despite of all the harsh discords of life, life is saved by the singing of angels. And thank you for helping us to remember that today. The orchestra can be seated. The choir can't be seated, but I promise this will be short. We are going through a time of Advent called Journey to Bethlehem. And I thought, what better way to talk about journey and pilgrimage is to invite someone some of you have seen on the National Geographic Channel. Maybe you've read one of his 2 books. Rob Lilwall, would you come forward? Welcome to Union.
Thanks, Greg.
What was journey number 1?
Journey number 1 for me, my first big journey, I actually used to be a geography high school teacher in England, but then I decided to go and explore the world on my bicycle, so I flew as far away from home as I could think, which was northeast Siberia, with my bicycle. So I flew to Russia, and then I cycled home again, and it took me about 3 years to get back to London on that journey, and I had lots of adventures on the way. Actually, the best thing that happened was here in Hong Kong, because I met a girl who's now my wife.
And Christine let you go on a second journey. What was that second journey?
Yeah, so after we got married in London, we moved back to Hong Kong, where we live now, and I decided to go on another journey, this time walking. This time I flew to the Gobi Desert in Mongolia and got off the plane. Then I walked home, which took about 6 months, and I did that last year.
So you walked across China?
Yeah.
How many footsteps was that?
About 5 million, I think.
Okay. You're a very committed Christian. Tell us a little bit about being a pilgrim in a Christian sense.
Yeah, so on both of my big expeditions, I was trying to get home, which is obviously a very meaningful place. And they kind of felt like pilgrimages to get to this meaningful place, to get to home. But on a Christian level, I think I see the whole of our lives as like a pilgrimage. We're trying to get to that place of great meaning. We're trying to get to the King, like the shepherds and the wise men, and we're on that journey. And on that journey in life, a bit like when I'm on my expeditions, we never know what each day might hold. We never know who we might meet, what adventures we might have, what challenges we might face, just like when I was on an expedition. And I think, just like on an expedition, we have to pray for faith and strength and courage to get through each day as we go along. But at the same time, I love to think we're not just trying to get to the King, we've also got the King with us. And there's this great Celtic saying that I like, which the Celts used to say about 1,000 years ago, when a lot of people used to pilgrimage to Rome. And the Celts used to say, to go to Rome is much trouble, little profit. The King you seek there you will not find unless he travels with you. And I find that a very powerful idea, that we're seeking the King, we're travelling towards the King, but he's also walking with us every step of the way.
Now, the 9:30 service completely bought all your books and videos, but Christine went and got a bunch more. So if people were looking for a Christmas present, do you know a famous explorer author who'd be willing to sign some books following the service?
Yeah, he might be outside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and God bless you, and thank you for sharing. Let's stand and close this very special service together by singing the first Noel.